Having inadvertently discovered that my parents had bequeathed their entire estate to my sister, I ceased covering their household expenses. A month later, my mother contacted me. "My dear, the utility bills have arrived." I answered the phone because no one anticipated the call. "And before we continue, please mention which country you are watching from. Enjoy listening." Xenia, as usual, was standing at the kitchen counter, lost in thought. Her gaze was fixed on the numbers displayed on her laptop screen. Settling the bills for her parents' residence had become a customary duty, a monthly ritual she had observed for many years. Electricity, gas, water, internet services. Without her intervention, Olga and Victor seemed utterly incapable of managing these affairs. She let out a sigh. It wasn't that the task was arduous for her, but rather that at times she felt like a draft animal, burdened with the responsibility of supporting the entire family. Her younger sibling, Elisa, was most likely occupied at that very moment, selecting a new ensemble for an upcoming social gathering or engaged in animated discussions about the latest gossip with her confidants. Elisa resided in a separate reality, a realm of effortless indulgences, where financial obligations resolved themselves and predicaments were addressed by some unseen force. Xenia harbored no envy towards her. No, she simply wished, on occasion, for a greater measure of recognition. Olga, her mother, frequently remarked to Elisa, "You require more latitude." Xenia possesses a creative spirit, and you, my dear, are pragmatic. You invariably discern the optimal course of action. Xenia consistently identified solutions. She was employed as an accountant for a corporation, managed the domestic sphere, and provided assistance to her parents. Elisa, as Olga termed it, was creatively inclined, drifting from one pastime to another, from photography workshops to paid dance instruction. Naturally, this expenditure was drawn from the family coffers, which Xenia predominantly replenished. On this particular day, following her workday and the usual array of responsibilities, Xenia resolved to visit her parents. She purchased their preferred Prague cake and a bottle of fine wine. Her sole desire was to spend time with them, engage in a heartfelt conversation, and experience a sense of belonging within the family unit, rather than being perceived merely as a provider of resources. Upon entering the dwelling, Olga was bustling about the kitchen. Victor, her father, was seated in his armchair before the television, as was his custom, engrossed in a sports broadcast. "Kshushenka, my dear, do come in." Olga greeted her with evident delight. "It is truly wonderful that you stopped by." "Indeed, daughter," Victor acknowledged, averting his gaze from the screen. "You are somewhat delayed today." "Work, Dad," Xenia responded. The evening proceeded along its customary lines. They partook in tea accompanied by cake and discussed current events. Olga voiced her displeasure regarding political figures. She spoke of the neighbor's domestic affairs, as was her habit. "She likely has nothing better to occupy herself with," Xenia mused, a faint twinge of resentment surfacing. After tea, Xenia offered to assist her mother with tidying up. Olga readily agreed, and together they began to sort through accumulated items in the storage area. Xenia found this activity rather disagreeable. The storage space was perpetually dusty and confined, yet Olga steadfastly resisted discarding items of sentimental value. It was within this space, amidst aged photographs, discolored correspondence, and other keepsakes, that Ksenia unearthed a small envelope bearing the inscription, "Will." Her curiosity was piqued. She understood the impropriety of perusing others' private documents, but the envelope seemed to beckon her, hinting at a concealed revelation. Xenia swiftly opened the envelope and unfolded the document. Her heart began to race. As she read, a growing sense of horror washed over her with each passing line. The will clearly and unequivocally stated that all of Olga and Victor's possessions, including the apartment, bank accounts, and country house, were to become the sole property of Elisa. A surge of indignation coursed through her, accompanied by anger and profound disappointment. How could they have perpetrated such an act against her, the one who had always been present, who had consistently offered support, who had invariably prioritized their needs above her own? She returned the will to its envelope and discreetly placed it in her pocket. Olga reappeared in the storage area. "What did you discover in there, Kshushenka?" she inquired, peering into the box. "Nothing of particular significance, Mother," Xenia replied, endeavoring to maintain an even tone. Merely old photographs. The remainder of the evening passed in a daze for Xenia, as she attempted to feign a smile and engage in conversation, yet internally, a storm raged. She felt profoundly betrayed, deceived, and utterly isolated. When it was time to depart, Olga embraced her. "Thank you, daughter, for visiting," she said. "We always feel such warmth in your company." Xenia offered a silent nod. She was unable to articulate a single word, fearing that her emotions would overwhelm her. At that precise moment, Xenia arrived at a firm resolution. No more bill payments, no more essential medications to procure, no more domestic assistance. Let Elisa, the favored one and designated heir, now assume responsibility for her parents' well-being at home. She placed a call to Marina, her closest confidant. "Marina, I need to speak with you," she stated, her voice trembling with barely suppressed tears. "Everything is exceedingly dire." "What has occurred, Ksyusha?" Marina inquired, her tone tinged with concern. "Are your parents well?" "My parents are indeed well," Xenia affirmed. "But as for me, everything is profoundly amiss. I require you to listen to me." Marina arrived within half an hour. Xenia recounted the entire ordeal, omitting no detail. Marina listened attentively, offering comforting embraces to her friend from time to time. "Ksyusha, I am at a loss for words," Marina declared once Xenia had concluded her narrative. "It is absolutely dreadful." "I am aware," Xenia responded. "I simply cannot comprehend how they could have acted in such a manner." "They made an error, Ksyusha," Marina stated. "However, that does not necessitate your suffering as a consequence. You have every right to pursue your own life and happiness." "I understand," Xenia repeated, "and I have resolved that I will no longer remain silent. I will cease making sacrifices for those who do not properly value them." "Ksyusha, your resolve is commendable," Marina affirmed. "Thank you, Marina," Xenia replied. "You invariably offer your support." "How could it be otherwise?" Marina responded. "We are friends." Xenia understood that a challenging period lay ahead, and her initial step toward this new chapter was the decision to cease her financial contributions to her parents. Initially, a deceptive tranquility pervaded Olga and Victor's household, as if no alteration had occurred. The couple had not yet exhausted their existing supply of medications, and their established routines remained undisturbed. Victor, in his typical fashion, voiced his dissatisfaction with the morning television programming, while Olga busied herself with household chores. The television continued to drone with news updates. They scarcely noticed Ksenia's absence. At first, Olga attributed Ksenia's lack of presence to her being occupied with work. "She is likely swamped," she remarked, showing no outward signs of concern. Victor, in turn, dismissed the matter. "Where would she go?" he muttered, engrossed in his newspaper. "She will undoubtedly come running, like the sweet child she is." Nevertheless, days turned into weeks, and Ksenia made no appearance. There were no phone calls, no visits, not even a brief message. Olga began to experience genuine worry. She attempted to contact her daughter on multiple occasions, but Ksenia did not answer. Subsequently, Olga reached out to Marina, Ksenia's closest friend, hoping to glean some information. "Marina, hello, this is Olga, Ksenia's mother," she began, her voice adopting an overly polite tone. "How are you?" "Hello, Olga," Marina Ivanovna replied with reserve. "We are well. And you?" "Yes, I am concerned about Ksyusha. She has completely vanished. She does not call, she does not visit. Have you seen her, perhaps?" "We have indeed seen each other, of course," Marina responded. "Ksyusha is currently very busy. She has a great deal to attend to." "What has happened? Why is she not communicating with us?" Olga inquired. "Perhaps we have offended her in some way." "You would be better off asking her directly, Olga Ivanovna," Marina stated. "I cannot disclose the confidences of others." Olga sensed Marina's evasiveness beginning to grate on her nerves. "Well, at least offer a hint. What is transpiring?" "She requires time and space. She will disclose everything to you herself when she is ready. In the interim, I apologize, but it is time for me to conclude this call." Marina abruptly ended the conversation, leaving Olga in a state of utter bewilderment. She shared the exchange with Victor, who merely grunted in annoyance. "What a friend," he scoffed. "She parrots time and space like a broken record. What utter nonsense." However, deep down, Victor also began to experience a disquieting unease regarding Senia's prolonged absence and the erosion of their usual certainty about her presence. The initial alarm bell sounded when the utility bills arrived in their mailbox. Olga, acting out of habit, retrieved them, intending to set them aside until Ksenia's arrival. However, it then dawned on her that they would now have to contend with these documents themselves. She hesitated, but quickly became flustered. She telephoned the management company, but their response was curt, and they demanded the personal account number, which naturally she had no idea where to find. In the end, she hung up in despair. "Vitya, what are we to do?" she pleaded. Victor frowned and took the bills into his hands. He studied them intently, scrutinizing fragmented pieces of information. He had grown accustomed to his daughter consistently managing these domestic responsibilities, shielding him from unnecessary entanglements. "Very well, we shall figure this out," he muttered, despite his own lack of confidence. They spent the entire day attempting to decipher the process of paying the utilities. Ultimately, they managed to settle the bills, but it exacted a significant toll on their effort and composure. That evening, through a video call, they first grasped the extent of their reliance on Ksenia. They realized that she had not merely offered assistance. She had, in fact, been the cornerstone of their existence. Now, with her support withdrawn, they found themselves utterly bereft. Olga could no longer bear the situation and called Ksenia once more. This time, her daughter answered. "Daughter, what has happened? Why are you not calling, not visiting?" Olga inquired, her voice laced with agitation. "And what of you? Do you not have Elisa?" Ksenia responded coolly. "She is your heir. Let her manage your affairs now." Olga fell silent, stunned by Ksenia's words. For the first time, she detected such profound resentment and bitterness in her daughter's voice. "But Kasyusha, we are your parents. How can you speak thus? And how could you do this to me? All my life I have supported you, and you choose to abandon us for someone who barely remembers you. We merely desired a future for her," Olga stammered, a lump forming in her throat. "And what of my future? Must I labor for you and Elisa my entire existence?" "No, of course not. We did not consider—" "Precisely. You never considered me." Ksenia interrupted. "From this point forward, you will live as you see fit. I will not continue in this manner." She terminated the call, leaving Olga in tears. She turned to Victor and recounted the conversation with his daughter. Victor remained silent, his head bowed. He felt a profound sense of guilt and bewilderment. He understood that they had committed a grave error by favoring Elisa, but how could they rectify the situation now? A month elapsed. Xenia deliberately avoided dwelling on her parents, immersing herself in her professional work and her newfound passion for ceramics. She utilized the potter's wheel as an outlet for the tempest of emotions churning within her. She sculpted vases, cups, and small figurines, channeling into them her suppressed rage, her lingering resentment, and paradoxically, a flicker of hope. Meanwhile, a decidedly different atmosphere prevailed in Olga and Victor's apartment. Soon, health-related challenges began to compound their financial difficulties. Victor's supply of blood pressure medication dwindled, and he began to feel unwell. He had no prescriptions available at the pharmacy. He needed to contact Elisa, Olga stated resignedly. Perhaps she could offer some assistance. Elisa, as usual, was preoccupied. She was preparing for an upcoming social event with her friends. Her parents' call was an unwelcome interruption. "Mother, what is it now?" she asked, her tone expressing displeasure. Olga, striving to mask her distress, attempted to persuade her. "Perhaps you could offer us a modicum of assistance." Elisa sighed. "Mother, I have already explained. My professional obligations are quite demanding at present. I am completely overwhelmed. Furthermore, I am not Shusha, tasked with resolving all your predicaments. Try to manage on your own for once." Without awaiting a response, Elisa disconnected the call. Olga, her shoulders slumping, met Victor's gaze. In his eyes, she saw a reflection of her own fear and disillusionment. "What shall we do?" she whispered. Victor remained silent, feeling a profound sense of helplessness and regret. Elisa, after placing her phone down, experienced a pang of remorse. She recognized that her parents required assistance at this juncture, yet she genuinely did not wish to disrupt her plans. The party, the prospect of new acquaintances, the opportunity to share aesthetically pleasing photographs on Instagram, all of these seemed to hold far greater significance for her than the health concerns of others. She then resolved to persuade Ksenia to resume her former responsibilities. "Kshusha, hello?" she began, attempting to imbue her voice with a semblance of warmth. "Here's the situation. Our parents require aid. Perhaps you would reconsider and extend your help to them." Upon hearing her sister's voice, Ksenia felt a surge of anger. "Elisa, you are truly remarkable. You are fully aware of why I no longer assist our parents. It is far too chilly to endure. I am responsible for ensuring that you do not wish to care for them. You are the heiress now, after all. So, attend to it." Elisa attempted to interject, but Ksenia cut her off. "Do not contact me again. I have no time for idle chatter." She ended the call. Elisa felt a sense of humiliation and insult and flung her phone onto the sofa. "What a—" she hissed. How could she treat her own parents this way? She concluded that Ksenia was simply envious of her beauty, her accomplishments, her untroubled existence. How else could she possibly interpret such cruelty and indifference? Her parents attempted to communicate with Ksenia, but she maintained a deliberate distance. Olga called repeatedly, endeavoring to initiate a dialogue, but Ksenia offered evasive responses, citing busyness and exhaustion. She wished to avoid lengthy explanations, fearing she would falter and release the pent-up emotions. She required time to process the events, to ascertain her next course of action. "Kshushenka," Olga's voice broke on the phone. "Why are you acting like a stranger? We are your parents, are we not? Can you not comprehend our situation?" "Comprehend what, mother?" Ksenia retorted dryly. "You have exploited me for years, and now that I am no longer convenient, you have suddenly remembered that I am your daughter." Victor also attempted to engage Ksenia in conversation, but his efforts proved even less successful. He was a man of few words, and articulating his feelings presented a significant challenge. He would simply call and remain silent on the line, hoping Ksenia would initiate the dialogue, but Ksenia offered no response, and the call would invariably conclude. They began to contemplate strategies for regaining her trust. Olga and Victor spent numerous evenings discussing the unfolding circumstances. They replayed in their minds all the instances where they had shown preference to Elisa, where they had overlooked Ksenia's efforts, where they had taken her care for granted. "We were blind," Olga confessed, wiping away tears. "We only saw what we wished to see. We presumed Kshusha would always be available, that she would never depart, and yet she too is a person with feelings. We should have been more considerate from the outset." Victor grumbled. "Now we are beholden, as the responsibility for our parents does not naturally fall upon us." Following several unsuccessful attempts to assist them with bill payments and medication purchases, Elisa began to avoid their calls. This way of life was arduous for her. She was unaccustomed to giving rather than receiving. "Why did I even confide in my friend?" She mused aloud on the phone. "Why should I be the one to pay for them? Kshuka is wealthier anyway, so she should be the one to help." Her friend, however, was not inclined to offer support. She was aware that Elisa had always been coddled and self-centered and felt little sympathy for her predicament. "This is your own doing," she stated plainly. "My friend, you have consistently taken advantage of the fact that Kshusha covered all your expenses. And now that she has ceased this practice, you suddenly feel aggrieved. It seems rather peculiar." Elisa ended the call, incensed with her friend. She felt cornered. On one hand, she was unwilling to assume the burden. On the other hand, she understood that if she did not intervene, her parents might perish. Ksenia experienced a sense of liberation, yet within her soul, the pain of betrayal lingered. She continued to attend her ceramics classes, where she found solace and an avenue for expressing her emotions. Marina offered her unwavering support. She observed Xenia's burgeoning independence and recognized that Xenia required encouragement and understanding. Do not harbor resentment towards your parents, Marina advised. They are still your parents. They made a mistake, but they have acknowledged it. Grant them the opportunity to navigate this. Xenia remained silent, unsure how to respond. She understood Marina's perspective, but forgiving her parents proved to be a considerable challenge. The rift was too profound. The resentment ran deep. Olga did not hasten to offer forgiveness. Olga contacted Xenia and informed her of their revised decision. Ksyushenka, we have redrafted the documents, Olga stated. Now everything will be divided equally between you and Elisa. We recognize that we were unjust to you. Xenia listened to her mother's words in silence before replying. It is not about the inheritance, Mother. The core issue is that you did not value me. You took my efforts for granted, while idolizing Elisa simply for her presence. I require time to process this. Despite her internal turmoil, Xenia began to notice a gradual softening within herself. She observed her parents' attempts to rectify their past mistakes and recognized the difficulties they faced in her absence. She sensed her anger slowly yielding to a sense of compassion. One evening, as Xenia was engrossed in her ceramics work, Elisa called. Her voice conveyed a sense of worry and apprehension. Ksyusha, father is not feeling well, Elisa reported. He requires immediate surgery, and we lack the necessary funds. Please, could you help us? Xenia froze, her hands tightly gripping a piece of clay. She was aware that Victor had been dealing with a cardiac condition for some time, but she had not anticipated the severity of his situation. What has happened? Xenia inquired, striving to maintain her composure. Alice explained that Victor had experienced an attack, and the medical professionals indicated the necessity of an urgent operation. The cost of the procedure was substantial, and they did not possess the required funds. Mother, in a state of panic, Alice continued, I have attempted to secure funds, but nothing is coming together. Please, Ksyusha, assist us. Xenia remained silent, contemplating the information she had received. She understood that her father's life hinged on her decision. She could refuse to assist, and Victor might perish. Yet she also recognized that by offering help, her parents might resume their pattern of exploitation. I will consider it, Xenia stated, and ended the call. Two competing emotions warred within her, resentment and affection. Resentment towards her parents for their injustice, and love for her father, whom she did not wish to lose. Ultimately, love prevailed. Xenia decided to assist her father. She understood the potential difficulties, the possibility of facing her parents' ingratitude once more, but she made the choice. She contacted Alice and informed her that she would help secure the funds for the operation. Alice was overjoyed and expressed her gratitude. Xenia began reaching out to her friends and acquaintances, soliciting their assistance. Through their collective efforts, they managed to raise the requisite amount, and Victor underwent the surgery. The operation was successful, and Victor began to recover. As they looked upon him, filled with love and gratitude, for the first time in a long while, they felt like a genuine family. When Xenia visited her father, Olga approached her and embraced her. Thank you, Ksyushenka, Olga said, tears in her eyes. You have saved his life. We will never forget this. I appreciate your words, Xenia replied, but I cannot revert to our previous dynamic. I no longer wish to be merely a financial resource. I wish to live life on my own terms, pursuing my own interests. Olga and Victor exchanged glances. They understood that Xenia was entitled to live her life as she saw fit. We are not asking for everything to return to how it was, Ksyusha, Olga stated. We simply want you to know that we love you and are profoundly sorry for how you were treated. Xenia nodded. That was precisely what she had yearned to hear: acknowledgement, an apology, and understanding. At that moment, she realized that a true family is not defined by blood ties alone, but by mutual support and care, and that forgiveness serves as the key to healing and reconciliation,